Was the worst year for a lot of us for our mental as well as physical health. So joining us this morning is best-selling author, coach Lisa Goldenthal.
Hello and welcome. I'm Lisa G, your host. You're at the top of your game, yet the game is changing faster than ever. Strategies that got you here aren't the ones that'll keep you here. The pressure is relentless, and the fear of obsolescence looms large. That's why I'm here. Welcome to the new podcast series, Disrupted: How to Be Gritty and Unlock Performance in Business, Mindset, Wellness, and Success to help you master disruption.
Thanks for coming, and I'll see you soon.
He's an expert in human development, author, president of Global Human Development, Inc., the motivation behind the Unified Science of Love Project. When not working on you, you're born to be loved. Love Decoded app. Stefan hopes to take global his teachings of why unconditional behavior is the foundation of mental, emotional, and physical health, success, and happiness. So I want to jump right in. Stefan Deutsch, welcome to Whole CEO with Lisa G. You're a very special mentor to me, and that's why I wanted to bring you in at this very important time in the world, because we've all been through so much, and that's why I launched the podcast Whole CEO with Lisa G, is the power to pivot. And your teachings of self-love and unconditional love have really helped me. So I want to first start with a big thank you.
You're welcome. Pleasure to be here with you. And by the way, you're a good student.
Thank you. I'm really working on it. I have little reminders in my calendar to love myself, and I'm trying to let go of perfectionism, but it's a work in progress. Self-love takes a daily practice, and letting go of perfectionism is a daily practice, but finding the awareness has been so pivotal for me in this very trying time. So thank you for all that you do in the world. I want to jump right in with the topic of how to be unstoppable by loving yourself and others unconditionally, because that's helped me so much, and I know that's what you teach. So do you want to elaborate on that a little bit, Stefan?
Sure. Well, the work is based on a theory, and the theory says love is nourishment like air, food, and water. And the way people have heard this phrase, love is nourishment, is usually we say mother's love is nourishment. So we do use it, but usually people don't think of it literally. You know, it's not
Right.
like mother's milk, or it's not like food, air, food, and water, or nourishment.
Right.
Love is usually thought of more in the romantic sense, attraction, desire, and it turns out that's not what it is at all. It's not dopamine, it's not adrenaline, it's not pheromones. It is nourishment in the literal sense. So what does that actually mean? Because to hear it for the first time, I mean, it's simple English, but it's really kind of hard to wrap your head around it. So I do want to say to those out there who are science-minded and maybe skeptics, that this theory has now been research validated. I hypothesized it over 30 years ago. It's been used in a clinical trial with no less than physicians, nurses, and residents at Danbury Hospital. 30 years of clinical work in addition. Fredrickson published her 8-year-long research in 2013. Luby's research on the hippocampus and nurturing behavior of mothers, cancer survival rates, which people might find amazing, that people who are in a loving environment survive cancer 40% at a 40% higher rate than people who are not. Celeb's book, my colleague Eva, who wrote a book called The Love Response, which has to do with the relaxation response, and it's activated by love. So love is an exchange of energy, something that we're able to generate and intentionally sent to another person like we do sound. Sound is intentioned energy. We don't see it, but another person can receive it and understand it. When we come from a loving place, another person can sense it and understand it. They know where we're coming from, right? And that's why we say it's not what you say, it's how you say it. Is it
Right.
coming from a loving place, a caring place, or is it just coming from some place of upset or anger or disappointment? So, yeah, it also nourishes our immune system.
Yes.
Very important for our health. Our vagal nerve, our most important nerve in our body. Hippocampus, that has to do with emotional regulation. So that if you have people around who just get upset and kind of blow up and have that kind of personality, they might not have been nurtured enough as children, and now they have to learn to nurture themselves and to have people around them become more nurturing to them.
Well, yeah.
The clinical trials results were presented to the American Medical Association, as well as to the American Psychological Association at their annual conference. Very well received. So again, this is for your skeptics or science-minded followers. So now, what does it really mean? And why is it important to understand that love is nourishment and that we need it conditionally? So let's use another nourishment, food, okay? And just imagine if you were dependent all your life on others for food,
Right.
that we never become self-sufficient. Okay, because with love, that is the way it is. We're dependent on others. Even though we hear a lot about it's important to love yourself, but it's not really explained why, what that means, how to do it. So it kind of goes over people's heads to a certain degree, or they understand it as becoming more selfish or self-centered, which is not something we're happy with people who are self-centered. We're not that happy with them. Okay.
Okay, well, can we give
So now
some
again,
real
imagine.
world examples of how this would work for me? I know this helps me when you give a real world example of the self-love. I'm putting the notes of forgiving myself for any unloving behavior towards myself and self-love notes in my phone. And I know you guys want to maybe take some notes and think about doing that, have an alarm in your phone, because a relationship isn't going to work if you're codependent and you're dependent completely on that other person to love you. So give some real world examples about how we
Well,
can do conflict resolution as well from a loving place so that we
you're
don't.
going to but the point being that we are in fact dependent on other people because society, culture doesn't encourage us to love ourselves. We're encouraged to love other people, to be
Right,
respectful, nice, kind, compassionate, giving, supportive, accepting, appreciative of other people.
right,
And we're really not taught to be that way with ourselves, which loving ourselves simply means. It's actually something very simple. It's becoming one's own best friend. But now let's just go back to that analogy of food. Imagine if you were dependent for the rest of your life on other people, the way we are with love, on food, okay? And that they only gave it to you when you pleased them, which is kind of what it feels like with love. If somebody gets upset with us, we don't feel the love,
right,
right? We may say, well, she'll talk to me in a week or he'll whatever, but it doesn't feel very good. So in a sense, what we do unconsciously is we withhold the love from other people when we're not happy with them. And they actually can feel it. And what happens when we are in these codependent or dependent relationships with parents, with siblings, friends, basically everyone, okay, is that it makes us feel frustrated, sometimes makes us feel angry, certainly depressed. Suicide has a lot to do with not loving ourselves and not feeling loved in the world, anxious, stressed, all
yeah,
of those things. And what people do to numb this painful kind of negative feelings is overeating, drinking, alcoholics, drugs, uh, being a workaholic, for instance, or looking to be financially successful. That we need to feel good about ourselves or not feel at all. So
Right.
some of these things, addictive, obsessive behaviors, are to kind of numb the pain or to try to make ourselves feel better about ourselves. It's not a lot of joy in that. That's the problem. So love being nourishment implies two things. One, that we need it unconditionally,
Yeah.
whether from ourselves and others, whether we fail or whether we succeed. We still need to love ourselves because we still eat. It's
Right.
synonymous, right? Even if we fail at something or make a big mistake or whatever, we still eat. We still need to love ourselves in spite of our failures, in spite of things not going the way we want. Okay. And the bottom line is that there is only one person we can actually count on. And this is very important. And that is ourselves,
Right.
right?
That's
So,
important, but I want to dive a little deeper also too into healthy relationships and real world examples about how would this work in a relationship if you wanted to come to somebody unconditionally loving them to resolve a conflict.
well, unconditionally loving doesn't mean we don't tell them that we're upset with something.
Thank
We
you.
actually do. And we tell them because we love ourselves. See, when we love ourselves first and somebody treats us unlovingly, then we owe it to ourselves and actually to them to raise their consciousness, to tell them. The important thing is how we do that. And the problem is we don't know how to express anger, upset, disappointment, frustration. We kind of come straight at a person,
Right.
and what happens?
They go defensive.
They get defensive. The amygdala, the primitive brain, is uh, the one that's reacting. It becomes reactive rather than the
Right.
hippocampus. And I just told you that when we're more loving, we are nurturing, nourishing our hippocampus. We're developing our hippocampus. We're able to be more rational and more in control of our emotions. It's kind of like emotional intelligence
Yes.
level 3.0 or level 4.0. The thing that we need to do when people say something to us that we're close to, or do something that upsets us,
Right.
disappoints us, is to say to them, I know you didn't do this on purpose. We have this close relationship that's important to me, and I want to see this relationship grow. And I know that you didn't get up this morning thinking how you can upset me. So I know that. Uh, but what you said just before, what you did, you forgot something yesterday that you promised, whatever it did hurt my feelings. So please be a little bit more careful. When we phrase it that way, we're not blaming the other person. They can feel we're still coming from loving them. We state
Right.
that up front. You love me and I love you. You know, if it's a close family relationship or a close friend, you can say, I know that you love me and you know that I love you. But kind of this is not acceptable.
Yes.
Uh,
So that's
so
self-loving by expressing what you feel, but finding a way to diffuse it because when we're really close to someone, those are the people that can trigger us the most. So
yeah,
by
because we're expecting love from them. So
right.
that's why they're so triggering, because when they don't behave lovingly, it feels like they're withholding something that we need. Once we learn to love ourselves, people's unloving behavior isn't quite as painful.
Yes.
Isn't and we also don't need them for love. So we can tell them we're not happy without being afraid that they're going to leave the relationship. We're
Right.
always kind of on eggshells around people who we feel we need. Uh,
Yes.
yeah. So this is basically the kind of the short version. Again, unconditional doesn't mean being a doormat and letting people walk all over you. It's just the opposite.
Yeah.
It comes from an inner strength, an inner calm, and we do share it because we owe that to ourselves. That's what loving yourself means, is that you will tell people unacceptable. And I know I can count on you to be more careful the next time if this relationship is important. And then there is also, we can do time out with somebody.
Right.
Why don't we just, why don't you think about how important this relationship is? Maybe it's not that important to you. I understand, you know, but then it's something that doesn't work for me. If you're going to continue to treat me that way, it really doesn't work for me. So why don't we talk a couple of weeks from now and then you tell me, I know changing isn't easy, but being careful, I deserve that.
I love
So
that.
that's basically the way it is now. I know that you're dealing with a concept called unstoppable.
Yes, I want
Unstoppable.
us to help people be unstoppable because we've all been through trauma in the last year and a half. And I've been through so much trauma that this loving myself is something I've been taught by another mentor of mine, Jackie Sabrin, who's also a great coach. But to get that in my phone and remind myself that I need to love myself more now, that everything is uncertain. We're all through so much uncertainty. So I wanted to bring your special sauce on here to my podcast because it means a lot to me to help other people become unstoppable and love themselves. So, how can we encourage them with any final thoughts on how they can do that?
Well, uh, loving ourselves is really the key to being unstoppable. Okay. Uh, when we don't love ourselves, what happens is obstacles come up in life. Something like a pandemic will come up in life. We're separated from people more. Uh, and maybe we fail at something. When we love ourselves, we treat ourselves the way we would do a good friend who's down because something happened, and we would support them. We say, don't worry about it. It happened, but you'll pull through that, and you have all of these good qualities, and you just keep working at it. We're being very supportive. That's not the way we are with ourselves. We kind of turn on ourselves. We are unhappy with ourselves, and that's it. Where's the support? Where is the telling ourselves that, okay, something happened, but we'll get through it? We're really winners at heart. That's what you would say to a best friend. We don't talk to ourselves like we're our own best friend. So when you learn to love yourself, you become your best friend. You wind up being respectful with yourself, supportive, understanding, accepting that maybe you're not perfect. It's okay. You still love yourself. Uh, Compassion, self-compassion, all of these things happen when we begin to love ourselves, and it gets us through hard times. It gets us through hard times. So that's why loving self and doing it unconditionally, not only when we succeed and we did a great podcast or whatever, and then we're happy with ourselves, but when we make a mistake or forget an appointment or whatever, then we're down on ourselves. No, no, we love ourselves through our own weakness, our own failures. That's who we are. We accept, like we do a best friend, is not perfect, but we love them anyway,
Well, that's
right?
so helpful to me. I mean, want our audience to be able to know where they can really learn more about your books, your work that you're doing, your foundations. Do you want to leave our audience with any
Tell,
way they can find you?
they can find me on Long Island. If they go house to house, eventually they- they'll wind up knocking on my door. Uh, but yeah, I mean, my book is called Love Decoded, and it's on Amazon. And we are launching a global campaign with this information to educate the public. It's kind of like an anti-smoking campaign. Everybody's entitled to know that smoking kills you. Everybody's entitled to know that love is nourishment. And what that means, it's okay. You now have permission to actually love yourself in an emotionally healthy way, not by becoming self-centered, selfish, because sometimes that's the way people who don't feel love compensate. They kind of, the pendulum swings to the other extreme. Well, nobody loves me. Well, hell with everybody. I'm just going to love myself. And that's not really love. That's not really love. That's not loving yourself. Um, so yeah, if they go on Facebook, they'll see that we have, I think there's some other ones, but we have Love Decoded. We're working on an app. I think we're on Instagram. We have a website called Love Decoded. We're building a new landing page for that. And yeah, we're working with a number of entities who want to help us get the word out. So if you have any listeners who want to help us get this word out, by all means, get in touch with us through you. They can contact you, let you know. You'll give them our email address and do that. Now, the second way that not loving ourselves has to do with relationships. Okay, because we enter into relationships, maybe initially it's physical attraction, the
Right.
dopamine, adrenaline, which unfortunately is the way 13-year-olds and 18-year-olds, when we get a little older, we should stop having that be the
Especially,
number one.
yeah, it's not all about looks as we age. I can
It
say,
can be because we have had to learn how when people aren't nice to us,
yes,
when they're not loving with us, all of a sudden they're not attractive. We don't want them to even touch us. We don't want to be near them. We don't want to look at them.
exactly.
That's what we're really looking for.
Stefan Deutsch, I'm so glad that we have you here. Thank you so much for coming to Whole CEO with Lisa G. I want you guys to all make a note to tame your inner critic. I am working on this. It's powerful stuff. To love yourself, put a note in your phone, set an alarm. I have mine 3 times a day, and I really think through all the trauma, it's just we all need to love ourselves a little bit more and take ourselves off the hook and thus love others more unconditionally, because I realized I had an epiphany yesterday that even though I didn't think I was judgmental, that I am, because I judge myself so harshly and thus judge others from that inner critic high
Yeah.
like critic, and that's just not fair. Thank you so
It,
much for all the work you do. I really am grateful that our listeners get exposed to you.
well, you're welcome, and thank you for this opportunity. I was just going to say that in a relationship, one of the problems is that we're looking for this nurturing love, and it requires work. And uh, when we get comfortable in a relationship, we are not be, we're not being conscious enough of, am I speaking respectfully? Am I being supportive? Am I being patient with this other person? Am I being compassionate with the other person?
Right. Like
Or
a baby. I
judgmental?
want to think of them as like a baby, like, because everybody has their stuff that sometimes so easy to trigger the ones you love. So thank you for sharing so much knowledge.